The morning mist clung to the Danube plains like a shroud of destiny. As Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent surveyed the Hungarian countryside on August 20, behind him stretched an army of 100,000 souls, Christians and Jews united under the crescent banner of the Ottoman Empire. The irony was not lost on the Sultan. He was about to conquer a Christian kingdom using soldiers who prayed in different tongues to different gods, yet all served the same imperial vision. Grand Vizier Pagali Ibrahim Pasha, himself a Christian convert from Greece, approached the Sultan's pavilion where maps of Hungary lay scattered across silk carpets. The convergence at Mohacs would become more than a military victory. It would demonstrate the Ottoman Empire's revolutionary approach to governing diverse peoples under a single Islamic state. As documented by historical sources from the Cambridge Core Academic Archives, the Ottoman Empire's multicultural governance system was already well established by this period, allowing for unprecedented religious and ethnic diversity within an Islamic framework. King Louis II of Hungary had assembled barely 25,000 men to face the Ottoman juggernaut. His army represented the old European order, homogeneous, feudal, and rigidly Catholic. The young king, barely 20 years old, possessed the courage of his ancestors, but lacked their wisdom. He had rejected Ottoman peace overtures twice, believing that Christian Europe would unite against the Islamic threat. Instead, he found himself isolated, his appeals to Vienna and Rome falling on deaf ears. The Ottoman camp buzzed with the controlled chaos of a multicultural war machine. Janissary units, recruited as Christian boys through the Devshirme system but raised as Muslim warriors, sharpened their Yadigan swords while offering morning prayers. Serbian cavalry, Orthodox Christians, who had sworn allegiance to the Sultan, tended to their horses alongside Turkish Jewish merchants from Salonika managed the army's finances. Their ledgers, recording transactions in Hebrew, Turkish, and Arabic scripts. Sultan Suleiman himself embodied this multicultural synthesis. Known in Turkish as Kanuni, the Loguvere had spent his reign codifying laws that protected the rights of non-Muslim subjects while maintaining Islamic supremacy. His legal code, the Konan, complemented Sharia law without contradicting it, creating a framework where Christians could govern Christians, Jews could govern Jews, and Muslims could govern all. Yet justice remained unified under the Sultan's authority. As the Hungarian forces took their positions on the southern plain, Sultan Suleiman convened his war council. The assembly resembled the miniature United Nations of its time. Ibrahim Pasha spoke in Greek-accented Turkish. Sakalu Mehmed Pasha contributed strategic insights in his native Bosnian before translating to Turkish, and various other pashas offered counsel in the polyglot atmosphere that characterized Ottoman administration. The Sultan listened to each voice, understanding that the empire's strength lay not in converting its subjects but in harnessing their diverse talents for a common purpose. The battle that was about to unfold would be more than a clash of armies. It would be a collision between two fundamentally different approaches to governance. The Hungarians represented the European model of religious uniformity and ethnic harmony, while the Ottomans embodied a revolutionary Islamic concept of multicultural empire. As cannon smoke began to drift across the battlefield, the future of Central Europe hung in the balance, and with it, the fate of religious minorities across the continent. The earth trembled beneath the weight of Ottoman artillery as the battle commenced at dawn. Sultan Suleiman's cannons, crafted by Hungarian engineer Orban and maintained by a diverse crew of Turkish, Albanian, and converted Christian artillerymen, spoke the universal language of gunpowder. The Hungarian knights, magnificent in their medieval armor, charged forward with the fury of crusaders. But they were charging into a new age of warfare, one where diverse knowledge and multicultural expertise had forged superior military technology. Grand Vizier Ibrahim Pasha, watching from his elevated position, marveled at the Ottoman war machine's efficiency. The Sultan's army functioned like a vast organism, where each ethnic and religious group contributed its unique strengths. The Janissaries, elite infantry converted from Christian families, fought with the zeal of the converted and the discipline of the devout. Their loyalty to the Sultan transcended their birth origins, proving that the Ottoman system could create unity from diversity. King Louis II, seeing his cavalry repulsed by Ottoman firepower, made the fatal decision to lead a personal charge against the enemy's center. His Hungarian nobles, bound by feudal honor, followed their young king into what would become a massacre. The contrast between the two armies was stark. While the Hungarians fought with individual heroism, the Ottomans fought with collective precision, their multicultural composition allowing for tactical innovations that homogeneous armies could never achieve. The battle's turning point came when Serbian cavalry, Orthodox Christians serving under the Ottoman banner, executed a brilliant flanking maneuver that trapped the Hungarian forces. These Serbian horsemen, led by commanders who had once fought against the Ottomans, now served the Sultan with the same fervor they had once shown their Orthodox princes. Their conversion to Ottoman service illustrated the empire's genius for transforming potential enemies into loyal subjects through religious tolerance and administrative inclusion. As Hungarian resistance crumbled, Sultan Suleiman demonstrated the statecraft that would define his reign. Rather than ordering a complete massacre, he commanded his forces to capture nobles for ransom and spare common soldiers who surrendered. This mercy was not mere magnanimity, facilitate the integration of conquered territories into the Ottoman system. The Sultan understood that ruling a multicultural empire required different approaches to different populations. The aftermath of Mohawks revealed the sophistication of Ottoman multicultural governance. While Hungarian nobles lay dead on the battlefield, Hungarian peasants watched from distant villages as Ottoman forces passed through their lands with surprising discipline. The Sultan's army, despite its diverse composition, maintained strict codes of conduct that protected civilian populations. Jewish merchants accompanying the army even began establishing trade relationships with local Hungarian communities, demonstrating how the Ottoman system could transform conquest into economic opportunity. King Louis II's death in the marshes near Mohacs marked the end of independent Hungary, but it also marked the beginning of a new experiment in multicultural governance. The Ottoman Empire would not simply occupy Hungary, it would integrate Hungarian nobles into its administrative system, protect Hungarian peasants under Islamic law, and allow Hungarian merchants to participate in the vast Ottoman trade network stretching from Vienna to Baghdad. Sultan Suleiman's victory at Mohacs was more than military triumph. It was a demonstration of how Islamic principles could create a framework for governing diverse populations. The Sultan's decision to spare Hungarian lives and property reflected Quranic injunctions about treating conquered peoples with justice, while his integration of Hungarian expertise into Ottoman administration showed the practical wisdom of multicultural governance. The thunder of cannons at Mohacs had announced not just Ottoman military supremacy, but the emergence of a new model for imperial rule that would influence world history for centuries to come. 3 months after the victory at Mohacs, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent held court in the conquered Hungarian fortress of Buda. The scene that unfolded in the ancient royal palace would have shocked contemporary European monarchs. Hungarian nobles knelt before an Ottoman sultan, but they retained their titles, their lands, and their Christian faith. The Sultan's court functioned as a living laboratory of multicultural governance, where Islamic law provided the framework for protecting rather than persecuting religious minorities. The transformation of Buda Castle into an Ottoman administrative center revealed the empire's sophisticated approach to cultural integration. Hungarian architects worked alongside Ottoman engineers to modify the fortress according to Islamic architectural principles, while preserving its essential Hungarian character. The result was a unique synthesis of minarets rose beside Gothic spires, creating a skyline that symbolized the Ottoman Empire's ability to absorb and adapt rather than simply destroy conquered cultures. Grand Vizier Ibrahim Pasha, himself a product of this multicultural system, oversaw the establishment of new administrative structures in conquered Hungary. Born a Christian Greek, educated in Islamic law, and fluent in Turkish, Arabic, and Persian, Ibrahim embodied the Ottoman ideal of unity through his appointment of Hungarian nobles to administrative positions shocked European observers, but it reflected the Sultan's understanding that effective governance required local knowledge and cultural sensitivity. The Sultan's decision to establish a Hungarian Divana Regional Council demonstrated the sophistication of Ottoman multicultural Hungarian magnates who had survived Mohawks found themselves not as conquered subjects but as partners in governance. They would rule their traditional territories under Ottoman oversight, collect taxes according to Ottoman law, and maintain order according to both Islamic principles and Hungarian customs. This system of dual governance allowed the empire to expand without creating administrative chaos or cultural resentment. The establishment of the millet system in Hungary represented perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of Ottoman multicultural governance. Christians would be governed by Christian leaders in matters of personal law, marriage, and inheritance, while Muslims would be governed by Islamic law, and Jews by Jewish law. Yet all would be subject to the Sultan's authority in matters of state, taxation, and military service. This system created a unique form of religious federalism that protected minority rights while maintaining imperial unity. The arrival of Jewish refugees from Spain and Portugal in Ottoman Hungary illustrated the empire's practical approach to multicultural integration. These Sephardic Jews, expelled from Christian Europe, found in Ottoman territories not just refuge but opportunity. Their expertise in finance, trade, and administration made them valuable assets to the empire, while their gratitude for Ottoman protection ensured their loyalty. The Sultan's decision to settle these refugees in Hungarian cities demonstrated how the empire could transform religious persecution into economic advantage. Sultan Suleiman's legal reforms during this period established the framework for multicultural governance that would define the Ottoman Empire for centuries. His Qur'an secular law complemented rather than contradicted Islamic Sharia, creating a legal system that could accommodate diverse populations while maintaining Islamic supremacy. Hungarian nobles operating under this system found that they could retain their traditional privileges while accepting Ottoman suzerainty, creating a form of cultural autonomy within imperial unity. The Sultan's court in Buda became a model for Ottoman multicultural administration throughout the empire. Hungarian scribes worked alongside Turkish administrators, Greek translators facilitated communication between different ethnic groups, and Jewish financiers managed the complex economic relationships that bound the diverse populations together. This administrative synthesis demonstrated that the Ottoman Empire's strength lay not in its ability to impose uniformity, but in its capacity to create harmony from diversity. As winter approached and the Sultan prepared to return to Istanbul, the transformation of Hungarian society under Ottoman rule was already apparent. Churches remained open, nobles retained their estates, and peasants discovered that Ottoman tax collectors were often more reasonable than their former Hungarian overlords. The architecture of tolerance that Sultan Suleiman had constructed in conquered Hungary would serve as a blueprint for Ottoman multicultural governance across 3 continents. The snow-covered courtyards at Topkapi Palace in Istanbul echoed with the disciplined footsteps of the Janissary Corps as they returned from the Hungarian campaign in the winter of 1520. Among these elite soldiers walked men who had been born Christian Greek Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox, Bulgarian Orthodox, and even Catholic Butt who now served as the Sultan's most trusted warriors. Their transformation from Christian boys to Islamic soldiers represented the most controversial and successful aspect of Ottoman multicultural integration, the Devshirme system. Mehmed Aga, a Janissary commander who had distinguished himself and supervised the training of new recruits in the palace grounds. Born a Serbian Orthodox peasant boy 30 years earlier, he had been selected through the Devshirme levy and educated in Islamic schools before joining the Janissary Corps. His rise through the ranks demonstrated the Ottoman Empire's unique ability to transform potential enemies into loyal defenders through education, religious conversion, and merit-based advancement. The Devshirme system, while controversial to modern eyes, represented a revolutionary approach to multicultural governance in the 16th century. Christian boyars, typically aged 8 to 15, were recruited from Ottoman territories in the Balkans and Anatolia, converted to Islam, and educated in imperial schools. Unlike slavery, which aimed to exploit, the Devshirme system aimed to elevate, creating an administrative and military elite that owed their positions entirely to the Sultan rather than to hereditary privilege. Sultan Suleiman himself had been shaped by this multicultural environment. His closest advisors included men from across the empire's diverse territories, Greeks from Anatolia, Serbs from the Balkans, Albanians from the Adriatic coast, and Circassians from the Caucasus. This diversity of backgrounds brought different perspectives to imperial governance, enabling the Sultan to understand and effectively rule his far-flung territories. The Sultan's palace functioned as a microcosm of the empire itself, Islamic in faith, Ottoman in loyalty, but multicultural in composition. The integration of converted Christians into the highest levels of Ottoman administration challenged contemporary European assumptions about religious and ethnic harmony, while European monarchs struggled to maintain religious unity within their realms. The Ottoman Empire demonstrated that religious conversion could create loyalty that transcended ethnic origins. Sakalu Mehmed Pasha, a Serbian Orthodox convert who would later serve as Grand Vizier, exemplified this transformation, governing the empire with the same dedication he might have shown to a Serbian principality. The Janissary barracks in Istanbul served as schools of Islamic culture where recruits from diverse backgrounds learned not just military skills but also Islamic theology, Ottoman law, and administrative techniques. The education system created a unique form of cultural synthesis where Christian architectural knowledge merged with Islamic artistic principles, Slavic linguistic skills enhanced Ottoman diplomacy, and European military innovation strengthened Islamic warfare. The success of the Devshirme system revealed the Ottoman Empire's sophisticated understanding of human motivation and social dynamics. Rather than simply conquering and exploiting subject populations, the empire offered pathways to advancement that were unavailable in contemporary European societies. A Christian peasant boy could rise to become a patia, a Jewish merchant could become a court financier, and a Hungarian noble could become an Ottoman governor. This social mobility, based on merit rather than birth, created loyalty that mere conquest could never achieve. The religious dimension of this multicultural integration was particularly complex. While the Devshirme system required conversion to Islam, it did not require the abandonment of all previous cultural identities. Converted Janissaries often maintained connections to their birth communities, serving as bridges between the Ottoman administration and subject populations. This cultural biculturalism enabled the empire to govern diverse populations more effectively than purely Turkish administrators could have managed. The winter training exercises in the palace grounds demonstrated the practical results of this multicultural military system. Janissaries who had been born in different regions, spoke different languages, and practiced different traditions in their youth now functioned as a unified force. Their Islamic faith provided the spiritual framework for their unity, while their diverse backgrounds provided the cultural knowledge necessary for governing the empire's varied populations. As spring approached and the Sultan prepared for new campaigns, the Janissary Corps stood ready to serve. Their loyalty to the Sultan transcended their origins. Their Islamic faith provided their spiritual foundation, and their multicultural backgrounds equipped them to serve as administrators, diplomats, and soldiers across the vast Ottoman Empire. The Devshirme system had transformed religious diversity into imperial strength, creating a military and administrative elite that could govern multiple cultures precisely because they had experienced multiple cultures themselves. The Grand Bazaar of Istanbul hummed with commercial activity as merchants from across the known world gathered to conduct business in the spring of 50 in the covered markets that stretched 4 miles beneath vaulted ceilings. The Ottoman Empire's multicultural character revealed itself through the language of commerce. Jewish traders from Salonika negotiated with Armenian merchants from Edirne, while Greek bankers from Fana arranged credit for Hungarian nobles seeking to finance their estates under Ottoman rule. The economic transformation of the Ottoman Empire following the conquest of Hungary demonstrated how multicultural governance could create prosperity through the integration of Hungarian agricultural production, Jewish financial expertise, and Armenian commercial networks created an economic system that was more dynamic and resilient than any purely monocultural economy could have been. The Sultan's decision to protect and encourage diverse economic communities was not merely tolerant, it was economically strategic. Mordecai Baruch, a Jewish merchant who had arrived in Istanbul from Spain following the expulsion of 50, exemplified the Ottoman Empire's approach to multicultural economic integration. His family had fled Christian persecution in Iberia, but in Ottoman territories, they found not just safety but opportunity. Their expertise in international finance, developed through centuries of European commercial activity, made them valuable assets to the empire's expanding economy. The Sultan's protection of Jewish merchants was simultaneously an act of religious tolerance and economic pragmatism. The Armenian quarter of Istanbul buzzed with activity as merchants prepared caravans for the long journey to India and China. Armenian traders, skilled in multiple languages and familiar with diverse cultures, served as intermediaries in the vast commercial network that connected the Ottoman Empire to markets across 3 continents. Their Christian faith was protected under Ottoman law, while their commercial expertise was actively encouraged by imperial policy. This combination of religious tolerance and economic pragmatism created loyalty that military conquest alone could never have achieved. The transformation of former Hungarian territories into integral parts of the Ottoman economic system revealed the empire's sophisticated approach to multicultural integration. Hungarian nobles who had accepted Ottoman suzerainty found themselves partners in trade networks that stretched from Vienna to Baghdad. Their traditional agricultural estates became suppliers to Ottoman markets, while their administrative expertise became valuable assets in governing the empire's diverse populations. The economic integration of Hungary demonstrated that the Ottoman Empire could transform conquest into partnership through intelligent policy. The Wakef system, Islamic religious endowments, provided another mechanism for multicultural economic integration. Wealthy Muslims established charitable foundations that supported not only Islamic institutions but also Christian schools, Jewish hospitals, and multicultural infrastructure projects. These endowments created economic incentives for cooperation between different religious communities, while maintaining Islamic charitable principles. The system demonstrated how Islamic law could provide frameworks for multicultural cooperation rather than religious segregation. The Ottoman approach to commercial law revealed the empire's practical wisdom in governing diverse populations, rather than imposing uniform Islamic commercial law throughout the empire. Ottoman administrators created a flexible system that recognized different commercial traditions, while maintaining imperial authority. Jewish merchants could operate according to Jewish commercial law, Armenian traders could follow Armenian traditions, and Muslim merchants could practice Islamic commercial principles, yet all operated within the framework of Ottoman imperial law. The role of women in Ottoman multicultural commerce challenged contemporary European assumptions about Islamic society. Greek and Armenian Christian women participated actively in commercial activities, Jewish women managed family businesses, and Muslim women operated their own commercial enterprises. The Ottoman Empire's diverse commercial culture provided opportunities for women's economic participation that were unavailable in many contemporary European society. The Sultan's decision to establish commercial courts with judges from different religious communities demonstrated the sophistication of Ottoman multicultural governance. Commercial disputes between merchants of different faiths were resolved by panels that included judges familiar with different legal traditions. This system created confidence in commercial transactions between diverse communities while maintaining imperial authority over the commercial system as a whole. As summer approached and the trading season reached its peak, the Grand Bazaar stood as testament to the Ottoman Empire's multicultural achievement. The prosperity visible in the crowded markets was not merely the result of military conquest or political control, it was the product of a governance system that recognized diversity as strength rather than weakness. The merchants of different faiths who crowded the bazaar's corridors were not merely tolerated subjects, they were integral partners in the empire's economic success. The autumn of 1527 found Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent in his private gardens overlooking the Bot, contemplating the vast empire he had inherited and expanded. The victory at Mohacs had been military, but the true triumph lay in the administrative and cultural integration that had followed. As he watched ships from across the Mediterranean bring goods and peoples to Istanbul, The Sultan reflected on the delicate balance between Islamic faith and multicultural governance that defined his reign. The Hungarian campaign had tested the Ottoman Empire's multicultural system and proven its strength. Hungarian nobles who had initially resisted Ottoman rule now served as provincial governors, their expertise in local administration complementing Ottoman imperial authority. The integration of Hungary had demonstrated that the empire could expand not through forced conversion or cultural destruction, but through intelligent accommodation and mutual benefit. The Sultan's gardens, where Christian architects had designed Islamic spaces using techniques learned from Jewish mathematicians, symbolized this cultural synthesis. The letters arriving from across the empire told similar stories of successful multicultural integration. In Damascus, Christian Arab merchants worked alongside Muslim Turkish administrators to manage trade routes to India. In Cairo, Mamluk military expertise had been integrated into Ottoman strategic planning. In Belgrade, Serbian Orthodox communities had established schools under Ottoman protection while contributing to imperial defense. These reports confirmed the Sultan's belief that diversity, properly managed, created strength rather than weakness. The challenges of multicultural governance were not ignored in the Sultan's reflections. The delicate balance between Islamic supremacy and religious tolerance required constant attention and adjustment. The Debshirm system, while successful in creating loyal administrators, remained controversial among Christian populations. The economic success of Jewish and Armenian merchants sometimes created resentment among Muslim communities. The Sultan understood that multicultural governance required not just tolerance but active management of intercommunal relations. The development of Ottoman legal scholarship during this period reflected the empire's sophisticated approach to multicultural challenges. Islamic jurists worked with Christian and Jewish scholars to develop legal frameworks that protected minority rights while maintaining Islamic authority. The resulting legal system created precedents for religious tolerance that would influence Islamic jurisprudence for centuries. The Sultan's support for these scholarly endeavors demonstrated his understanding that multicultural governance required intellectual as well as administrative innovation. The architectural transformation of Istanbul during the Sultan's reign symbolized the empire's multicultural character. The Great Mosque of Suleimani, designed by the architect Sinan, incorporated Byzantine architectural elements while maintaining Islamic principles. Christian craftsmen worked alongside Muslim artisans to create a structure that was Islamic yet reflected the diverse artistic traditions of the empire. The mosque stood as a monument to the possibility of cultural synthesis within religious unity. The educational system that emerged during the Sultan's reign created institutions that could train administrators capable of governing diverse populations. The palace schools educated future governors in Islamic law, Ottoman administration, and the languages and customs of the empire's various peoples. This educational synthesis created a governing class that was Islamic in faith, Ottoman in loyalty, and multicultural in capability. The system produced administrators who could govern Christians as effectively as Muslims, manage Jewish communities as skillfully as Turkish ones, and maintain imperial unity while respecting local diversity. The Sultan's final years were marked by reflection on the legacy of Ottoman multicultural governance. The empire had demonstrated Islamic principles could provide frameworks for religious tolerance rather than religious oppression. The economic prosperity of the empire's diverse communities had proven multicultural policies could create material as well as spiritual benefits. The loyalty of converted Christians, protected Jews, and autonomous Christians had shown that inclusive governance could create stronger bonds than exclusive governance. As the Sultan prepared for his final campaigns, he understood that the Ottoman Empire's multicultural achievement was fragile and required constant nurturing. The balance between Islamic faith and multicultural governance was not a problem to be solved, but a challenge to be managed in each generation. The lessons of Mohacs and its aftermath would need to be relearned and reapplied as the empire continued to expand and evolve. The legacy of Sultan Suleiman's multicultural empire would extend far beyond the borders of Ottoman territory. The principles of religious tolerance, administrative diversity, and cultural synthesis that he had developed would influence political thought across the Islamic world and beyond. The Ottoman Empire's demonstration that diverse populations could be governed justly under Islamic law would provide a model for multicultural governance that would inspire reformers and revolutionaries for centuries to come. The thunder of cannons at Mohacs had announced not just military victory, but the emergence of a new vision of imperial governance that recognized diversity as strength rather than weakness. Author's note: this historical narrative draws upon extensive documentation from the Cambridge academic archives and other scholarly sources to present an authentic account of Ottoman multicultural governance during the reign of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. The Battle of Mohacs and its aftermath serve as a window into the sophisticated administrative and cultural systems that enabled the Ottoman Empire to govern diverse populations across 3 continents for over 6 centuries.